someone points a flashlight into the air and tells you to climb up the beam of light, do not do it. This is the oldest trick in the book. As soon as you're halfway up, he'll just shut the flashlight off on you.
It's been a little frustrating doing this ultimate tool cabinet build because it's been like a month that we've been working on it and we've just got the shell done. And really we should, if it was just any project, we should be done completely by now. But there's a reason for doing it this way. We've been trying to find new ways to do each step. The best part about woodworking isn't just the making things with your own hands. It's the ability to find new ways to do things, to not always use the same tools and the same techniques. And that's what's led us to create some of the jigs and machines that we've been working on. For example, the last 2 weeks we were working on dovetails, and instead of just banging out the dovetails like we normally would, we found new ways to do it. We made our own dovetail machine, which I really like using. I've used it a lot since then. So in the next 6 episodes, we plan on slowly going through this project and focusing not just on the tool cabinet, but on new and unique ways to do the process of building that cabinet. So this week we're making those swingy things that the tools hang on. Not exactly sure what they should be called. I just call them the tool swing outs. We decided to do finger joints to hold it together. And the reason for that is because I had an idea on building a box joint cutting machine that I'm hoping you're going to like. I know I like it, but I've had a chance to use it for the last week. I've seen a lot of box joint machines and jigs out there, and they all work. It's just a matter of what's most convenient. Sometimes if you have to make adjustments to it, the ones that are just a pin and that you have to shift the board over with each cut, they're hard to adjust, hard to fine tune, and easy to screw up, in my opinion. At least I've screwed up a lot of joints using them. Then there's the ones that use templates. Dovetail jig can cut box joints with a router by going in between those fingers. The one that we made a couple weeks ago, you can cut box joints on. But I didn't want to have to change the fingers each time and space all of those out to get my box joints. If you have a template that's fixed, like there's jigs out there that have an aluminum template of fingers that you just use a lever and move from one to the next, well, then you got to swap the templates, and I don't like doing that. I wanted something that was lead screw driven because that makes it easy to adjust. But I also wanted a quick release feature, and that usually isn't found on lead screw driven box joint machines. So that was a challenge that we wanted to take on.
When I was thinking about my own design for a box joint machine, it was important to me that it have smooth motion. Other box joint jigs that are similar to this out there use a system of wooden guides, and with moisture and swelling, the motion is not always smooth. That was important to me. Also, what I wanted was a quick release, because when you're doing box joints on a wide board, it might take a lot of cranking or a lot of movement along your template to get all the way to the end. You don't want to have to crank it all the way back. So I made a quick release feature that you can just pull up, and it allows it to slide freely. You can even lock it into position. And then when you're ready to go again, you just let it back down and it locks in place and you're back to cranking. This is also very handy for lining up your boards with the saw blade, because you want your first pass to just glide right along the edge of that board. Well, to get that perfectly aligned, you don't have to keep nudging your board over to get it in the right place. Just lock it anywhere on, and then raise your quick release feature, and you can slide it until it butts right up against the blade. Then let it down, and you're ready to go from that starting position. One thing that I did devise in order to minimize the slippage back and forth is this fence. You can lock this fence in place, which keeps the boards perpendicular to the saw blade. And the benefit of this is that when you're moving the carriage sideways and the bottom of these boards are dragging on the table saw, or in this case on the sled, it's going to want to tip to the right. You don't want that to happen. This keeps it steady. Two ways to advance it. You could do it with the crank, which is my personal favorite. The lead screw has 16 threads per inch. So one revolution on the lead screw gear moves the carriage 1/16 of an inch. I made the gear for the crank twice that size. So one revolution of the crank moves the lead screw 1/8 of an inch. Of course, when you're doing box joints, you want to move it twice as far as the thickness of the finger. So for 1/4 inch box joint, you would do 4 cranks. By putting a mark on one of the gear teeth and on the side of the jig, you can make sure that you always do full cranks. The second way to advance is with a template that you would screw to the front. You change these templates based on what size of joint you're going to do. I usually do 1/4 inch, so I just made a 1/4 inch template, but you could also make 1/2 inch, 3/8, whatever you plan on doing. They're very easy to make. You actually use the jig itself with the gear mechanism in order to make your templates so that they're perfectly spaced. And then you have the option of doing both. So to do it, you're going to raise your quick release and tighten it in the raised position so that the carriage will now move freely. Then you lock it in place, push it through, move it over, push it through, and so on. It's a quick way to do it without having to turn the crank. I guess it's just a matter of preference. But some people like to have it, so I wanted to make a jig that really had everything.
Everybody thinks that dovetails are the greatest joint in all of woodworking, and I like cutting dovetails. I think they're fun to cut, and they really have a nice traditional look. If you see dovetails, you automatically think the guy knows what he's doing, even if he doesn't. But box joints are actually stronger than dovetail joints. There's been several tests that have been done online that prove that. And I think they look nicer because they're very symmetrical, very well organized. I just really like the look of them compared to a dovetail. So I'm going to be using them more often now that I have this box joint machine in my workshop. Fall back, spring ahead. I can't keep track. Daylight savings time begins this weekend. Am I the only one that's tired of these farmers controlling every aspect of our lives? I mean, they grow all these vegetables nobody wants to eat. Do they have to control time too? That's what daylight savings time is all about. In the old-timey days, farmers decided they wanted more light, so instead of installing a few flood lamps, they talked the rest of us into changing our clocks. Really, it just seems fake to me. I mean, you can change the clock around all you want, but do you think the sun really is going to fit itself into our schedule? Well, I propose this. We set our clocks back every night before we go to bed. Then we set our clocks forward every day before we get out of work. That way, we'll always get an extra hour of sleep, and will get to quit 1 hour early. Talk the farmers into that one, and you can sit back, have a cold one, because you've earned it, my friend.